Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, syukurullah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad ibn Abdullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi mawala. Amma ba'd. Honorable Rector of International Indonesian Islamic University. Did I mention it right? Wrong? What's the right? Indonesian International Islamic. Well, I'm still kind of confused about. So I usually just simplify the mentioning by saying that this is a university with a lot of eyes. We have a university with one eye, and then later on we have, they established a university with two eyes. Now we have university with a lot of eyes. Honorable Rector, His Excellency Professor Dr. Kemanusiaan, distinguished lecturers and students, researchers, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm supposed to speak in English, right? Okay. Yeah, I remember when I was about to do the Agdun Nikah. My master, which is also my uncle, he asked me what language I would want the Agdun Nikah to be conducted. Do I want to have it in Japanese or Arabic or other language? Well, I said, because I am a Gus, meaning son of a kiai. Yeah. I said, okay, in Arabic. So now I have to ask, what's the language I should use for this speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I am given a topic related to the R20 that we conducted in the early November of last year in Bali and Yogyakarta. I would like to first explain why we did the R20. Before the G20 forum this year in Indonesia, it was in several years in G20 forums. They had this interfaith forum, which they call the Interfaith 20 or IF20. But now this year, we didn't do IF20, but we did R20. And I was asked why we did not do the IF20 and instead we did R20. I said this because we have a different idea about how an interfaith dialogue should be conducted. The IF20 usually put as topics of the forum issues related to economy and environment, and various things that reflect the policies of government, and ask the people who are supposed to be representatives of religion to offer supports from the perspective of religions for those policies. How religion, for example, how religion, can formulate a religious, articulation to support policies on environment, for example, policies on economy, policies on, for example, gender issues, and so forth. Now, we chose another approach. We understand that this kind of approach in bringing forward the role of religions into public issues is something quite familiar everywhere, at least since 1980s. I remember in Indonesia back then, in 1980s, Nahdlatul Ulama was encouraged to produce a religious formulation as support to uh, the family planning program. Belongs to the government, belonged to the government at the time. So religion, in one sense, is utilized to mobilize support from the people of religion for a particular policy of the government. Now, this is not a bad thing. Yeah. Obviously, family planning is a good thing. The concern to the problems of the environmental problem is a good thing. Yeah. But, and so forth. Yeah. But the thing is that we still have problems that come from within religion. It is a fact that a very significant portion in conflicts that are happening in different places in the world actually related to religion. This disaster in Middle East is related to religion. This chaotic conflict between Muslims and the Christian people in West Africa obviously related to religion. What we are seeing in India nowadays related to religion. So religion actually has everything to do in various hotspots in different places in the world. And it might also have a significant role in prolonging the tensions that occurs in various societies, including in the West, that involving the different groups of ethnics and religion. What some European people call as the crisis of immigration actually, in a sense, also related to religion. Why it is a crisis related to uh, immigration in Europe? Because a lot of immigrants coming into Europe are actually Muslims coming into a non-Muslim society in Europe. So it's been a very complex matter, actually, but religion has a portion, of role in there. As you can see, recently, what happened with this Swedish, this Swedish politician, uh, Rasmus Paludan. You know, the problem that he is articulating is not just religion, but surely related to religion. So we have, in fact, a problem of relationship between different group of religions. The relationship between Muslims and Christians are not well, actually. It's problematic until now. The relationship between Muslims and Hindus, problematic, and also with the Buddhists, relationship between different streams of Christianity, even in Europe, is still problematic up until now. Relationship between different streams of Islam in Muslim societies is still also problematic until now. So we've been doing this tradition of interfaith dialogue since when? For decades. I remember I was already an activist in this arena since like 1980s. And what's the result that we have? In 2017, Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, visited Indonesia, and we held for him an interfaith forum in Istiqlal back then. I think maybe Professor Komarudin also attended that forum, and I attended as representative of Nahdlatul Ulama. When I was given the opportunity to speak, I just tossed a question. How long have we been doing this? This interfaith, this supposed to be interfaith dialogue. Because what happened back then was like a usual traditional interfaith dialogue where every, the representatives of each religion were talking about how the religion that they represent is a peaceful religion, peace, love, and so forth. Like what we usually have in an interfaith forum like that. Nice words. So I said, I asked question, how long have you been doing this? And what's the result? Are things getting better? I said, the fact, it's not. Things are getting worse. And this only have one meaning. We are doing it the wrong way. We have to find another way of doing it. Which I believe, this other way that we have to pursue, I believe, has to be truly based on honesty. We have to speak honestly about the problem, even if the problem actually comes from our own religion. We have to honestly admit that, acknowledge that. Because if we want to resolve a problem, first thing, we have to simply recognize the problem. A problem that is not recognized cannot be resolved. So if we want religion to take part, to have a constructive role in bringing forward various humanitarian concerns, such as environmental concern, economic concerns, concerns of social justice and so forth, religion should first have credibility that it truly means something for the society. And to have that credibility, religion should be able to resolve its own problem. Now we have problem related to religion, and up until now, religion still fail to address that problem. Proven by what's happened in various places in the world where religion actually, you know, um, present as source of the problem. The problem, what we have in Middle East now, in Iraq, Iran, in Syria, in Libya, is the problem democracy? No. Religion is the problem. And it happens in various places in the world. This crisis in the West, both in Europe and United States, that bring about more and more political polarization. It has religion as one of the elements, in their problem. So we have to talk about it. That's what we were trying to do with this R20. And we did it. The thing is, so in our discussion, we found out that actually conflict and enmity has been the default mode of religion. Because religion claims to present the absolute truth against what is claimed to be false or wrong, then religion go against those other, faith. And you can see in history, it's simply what's been happening in history. How religion fight one another over claims of truth. And it's been the default mode of religion. So that's why, with all due respect, Professor Komarudin, this discourse about moderate Islam, I would say, is not an effective discourse. It's not an honest discourse. Because, see, it defied the conversation about the call for conflicts based on Islamic teachings, which is there. I've been taught since my childhood with that kind of teachings. So we have to deal with that. So that's what we did in the R20. We opened an honest conversation about these problems. And then we realized that we have the same thing from, every religion. We have problems in Christianity, in Judaism, in Hinduism, and so forth. So we talked about that. So the idea is to find how religion should function and in the context of our current reality, the reality of 21st century civilization. And it has to be different. Now, in doing that, we have to find a valid strategy. First, we have to be honestly recognize and identify the true problems of religion. It's also growing as a uh, a view in many secular societies. That religion should be rejected and avoided because it brings problem. So religion should recover its credibility by resolving these problems. Now we have to honestly identify and acknowledge what is the problem with religion. And the first that we should recognize is that every religion actually has tradition with problematic tenets of teachings. Yeah. Let me talk about Islam, for example. I've been taught with this kind of teaching since my childhood until now, that the others, the non-Muslims, the infidels, are our enemy and enemy of God. So the basic view of Islam, that's been taught to our children up until now about non-Muslims is that they are enemies, is enmity. So what do we do with that? We have to acknowledge this. It is based on that kind of view that now, for example, the so-called radicals and extremists develop this ideology of al-wala wal-bara. Who are our allies and who are our enemies? What is the boundaries of, alliance and enmity? This is a problem. Now, then what we need to do surely is we have to develop an alternative discourse on this. Because this tenets, these problematic tenets of teachings are still considered authoritative up until now. So, and we in Indonesia, we are experiencing this. We keep experiencing this until now. What happened in 2012, 2014, 2017 is this. These problematic tenets that then are re-articulated to serve political purposes. And so we need to generate alternative discourse for that. And then, so that means some ideas, some tenets, some teachings may have to be relinquished, or in the Nahdlatul language, should be recontextualized with the context of current reality. Now, these are what we did in the R20 forum. We had discussion in that forum in Bali and Yogyakarta, which contain criticisms, and self-criticism from each religion about what's problematic and the teaching of each religion. We have, for example, criticism from the Christian leaders about what's problematic in the teaching of Christianity, as well as I and other Muslim leaders were talking about also problematic issues in Islamic teaching, and also the Jewish leaders and the Hindu leaders back then. And actually, uh, we did our um, expectation actually met what happened in Bali and Yogyakarta in our R24. Before that, we are seeing that people were afraid that criticism can can trigger uh, conflicts between groups of religion. But the thing is, we need to do it, although it is, never comfortable for us. But we need to do it because, precisely it is the problem. And people who were involved in R20 forum, they were, amazingly so excited with this discussion. They're so excited and so enthusiastic to a point that they said themselves that this should not be just one off event. We have to do this R20, we have to develop this R20 forum as a global movement because this is what we need, which is again an honest discussion about the problem related to religion, the problem coming from religion. See, this is actually a long shot because we still have politicians who, for the interest of gaining support, usually use religion as weapon, as political weapon. It happens in Indonesia, it is happening now in India, in Nigeria, in Myanmar, and other places in the world. So we need more decisive component of strategy to deal with this problem. Once we have the alternative discourse on the issues of relationship between different religions, we need to go forward with a reform and in our religious educational system. We need to think about what should be changed in our educational, religious educational systems, such as madrasah and pesantren, for example. The curriculum, the, the method, the pedagogy, and so forth. We need to think about that. And also, then we need to develop because this has to do with the mindset of the people, we are in need for a social movement to bring forward this change. So actually, various actors, significant actors, already did the efforts in this direction. For example, the Catholic Church did in 1965, actually, what they call the Second Vatican. And in that forum, when where they had the gatherings of Catholic leaders, they came to a new position of, of Catholicism by saying that there is salvation beyond the Catholic Church. That's what they did at the Second Vatican. In 2016, there is a group of rabbis who did a rabbinical conference somewhere in the United States. And as the result of that forum, they produced what they call the Tetsufa document, the document of repentance. In that document, they actually honestly addressed problematic elements within the teachings of Judaism, such as this view related to non-Jewish people, the the status of non-Jewish people, which in traditional Judaism is viewed as something like subhuman to them, comparing to Jewish people, because Jewish people are chosen ones and the non-Jewish people are just unchosen, meaning, what they call the Gentile, something lower, of lower dignity, compared to Jewish people. This is acknowledged by these rabbis as part of their traditional teachings. And they call for relinquishing this view. This is good. 2000, and we invited one of the leaders of this movement. They call it the Masorti, movement. The Masorti movement. We one of their leader is actually Rabbi Alan Brill, from the United States. We invited them. He came and he spoke about this in R20. And also in 2019, actually, Nahdlatul Ulama held a national conventions of ulamas in Kota Banjar of West Java back then. We had thousands of NU ulamas. When I say thousand, means thousands, maybe not less than 20,000 ulamas, came in that gathering in Kota Banjar. See, Nahdlatul Ulama, actually, we don't have registered membership. We don't do, we don't register our members. So we don't have this, record of how many members actually we have. What we have is people who self-identify, who identify themselves as follower of Nahdlatul Ulama. So it comes from some survey, actually. I got this from, for example, Burhanuddin Muhtadi. I don't know what survey that he's in. Indicator. Yeah. He said that according to their survey, we have like 50.3% of Indonesian population claiming as followers of Nahdlatul Ulama. That means 50.3% of 275 million people of Indonesia. So, okay, so I asked another reliable source, which is an Ansar, leader, and also um, secretary of our research body, which Safik Hasim is in that uh, institute also. We have this friend named Hasanuddin Ali. He has his own research institute called Al Farah. And I asked him how many, and he said we have 59.2% of Muslim populations of Indonesia claiming to be followers of Nahdlatul Ulama. So that means 59.2% out of 238 million people. That's why I said 140 million. So I'd rather not mention, the percentage of Muhammadiyah. Because I'm not to be seen as offending. So we have this national conference, convention of ulamas in 2019, and these ulamas are out of discussion. So we put some questions, some key questions to them to answer. First, a question about what is the status of infidel or non-Muslim. Is non-Muslim should be viewed as enemy that has to be destroyed, that is eligible to kill, because there is this view, this very authoritative view in Islamic discourse that said that al asl fil kafir halalud dami wal mal illa liman lahul aman minal imam. The original status of non-Muslim, of infidel, is eligible to kill and to be, confiscated for his belongings, except those who get this guarantee from the leader, from the imam. It is there, and it's still considered to be very authoritative view in fiqh, in Sharia. So now, what is the status now? The status of non-Muslim. The second question is, what is the status of a caliphate, of establishing a caliphate? What is the legal status of establishing caliphate in the eye of Sharia? And the third is, what is the obligation for Muslims when they encounter different laws between national law and the Sharia law? Which law should Muslim abide by? A national law or Sharia law? And the fourth question is, what is the obligation for Muslim when they encounter conflicts between Muslims and non-Muslims? Because the original teaching is, wherever there is a conflict between a group of Muslim against a group of non-Muslim, any Muslim should join the fight, to help fellow Muslims in the name of helping fellow Muslims. And there are, this hadith on that. Al-Muslimul Muslim, Al-Mu'minul Mu'min, Kal Jazadil Wahid. One believer and another is like one body. When one hurt, then the other, should feel hurt and should help. So now, what would be the obligation? Because if we keep this view, then we have to go, in a war against Philippines, against Myanmar, against Thailand, against India, against whatever. Because there are conflicts between group of Muslim against group of non-Muslims, in those areas based on religion. What is the conflict between this southern Philippine with the Filipino government? It's religion. What the problem between the Patani and the Thailand government? Religion. India, religion, everywhere. It is a religious conflict. Whatever people say, in reality, in fact, it is a religious conflict. So what would be the obligation of Muslim in this case? So these ulamas in that convention, they came to, a theological positioning, or you can say fatwas. They issued fatwas related to answer this question. First, they said the status and category of non-Muslim or infidel or kafir is no longer relevant in the context of modern nation state, because no state has a legitimate claim to represent Islam as a whole. So that's why it's relevant anymore to see non-Muslim, as different different group in society with different legal status and position. Meaning, when they say that the status of non-Muslim is no longer relevant in modern nation state, there is no legitimate discrimination based on difference of religion, because everybody has to be equal before the law. So everybody has the same right and dignity in society, same right to elect, and same right to be elected, because it's not relevant anymore. The status and the category of non-Muslim is no longer relevant in the context of modern nation state. That's the answer for the first question. For the second question, this ulama said that the obligation of Muslims is to abide by the national laws. And it is forbidden to use Sharia, whatever it is they want to bring about, the idea that they want to bring about. It is forbidden to use Sharia as a reason to defy the national law, let alone to go against a legitimate government. And if it is seen that there are some issues in national law that are problematic in the eye of Sharia, people should try or do the effort to change it through a constitutional way. Because the most important thing in a society is stability and social order. Because in a society where there is no social order, nobody is protected. Everybody is subject to threats. So the obligation is to abide by nation law. And it is forbidden to use Sharia as a reason to defy or go against national law. The answer for the third question is that establishing caliphate is not a religious or Sharia obligation. People are free to create any construct of state, any social political construct for their society as they wish. They can establish a republic like what we do in Indonesia. They can establish a kingdom or whatever they want. People are free because caliphate is not a it's not like an officially Sharia construct of social politics. No. So it is not a religious obligation to establish a caliphate. Now, for the fourth question, the answer is that Muslims are obliged to struggle and fight for peace and not getting involved in any conflict in the name of helping fellow Muslims. Because involving in the conflict means, making the fitna bigger. It's enhancing the fitna. So the obligation is to resolve the problem, to end the fitna by making efforts for peace. And these are examples of how we can recontextualize, problematic tenets in our religious teachings. And now I know we have a community of evangelical Christians who are working on this kind of efforts too. Because I know this because actually since 2018, we have an official working group, with the World Evangelical Alliance. Yeah. So it's ongoing works to have a recontextualized evangelical teachings. If you see what I mean. Yeah. So this is something we need. Now, further study that we are doing, brings us to a thought that we need a strong foundation, which can be used as the foundation to develop a new set of teachings related to the relationship between different religious groups. Now, we come to a conclusion, actually, that these conflicts between different groups of religion and different groups of identity actually has been the mode of civilizational relationships all these centuries and thousands of years of human civilization. If you look at what happened in the era of ancient Rome, in the era of Egypt, in the era of Assyria and Sumeria, and also this Inca and Maya in Latin America, it's all about conflicts between different identities and different religions, different ethnics, different races, uh, which bear in them ideas of religion. So when the Rome go for a war against the Persia, it's not just about race or ethnics. It was also about religion. So, and the world went to a point that these conflicts of identities then um, erupted in a two great world war, which is the World War One, World War Two, with unprecedented casualties. World War One, we had more than 20 million casualties, combatants and non-combatants, and in even in even more. There are even more casualties in World War Two. We had between 70 to 85 million casualties World War II. This was shocking to the world, obviously, and this then um, um, drew the world toward a consensus about developing a new kind of international order. That's how uh, these international actors then came to a consensus on what we call the United Nations Charter. It's because of the awareness, about the need for a new international order which can guarantee more stability and uh, security, globally. That's the United Nations Charter, followed by the activation of United Nations Organization. United Nations Charter, 26th of June 1945. And the activation of UN organization is in October of the same year, 1945. So that's why. So we are seeing this international consensus can be a starting point. We think that if Islam, represented by the ulamas, can find an a legal status of this international consensus in the eye of Sharia, then we can develop all these, uh, required views, religious views, to nurture more uh, uh, peaceful relationship between different religions. So, because it is whatever we talk about this tolerance, peace, harmony, whatever, it's based on this international consensus of the UN Charter. See, we didn't do tolerance back then in 1940, right? We even didn't do tolerance when in September or September 1945, these allies, the troops of the allies came to Surabaya. We didn't tolerate them. We went for war against them, sacrificed so many. We didn't do tolerance back then. So did the Ottoman Turk, practice tolerance against these Christian European kingdoms? No. Did the Catholic kingdom in Europe did conducted tolerance toward the Protestant or the Anglican kingdom? No. Tolerance was not needed back then, before this UN Charter. Tolerance, we call for tolerance because we want a more peaceful world, right? And it started with this UN Charter. So now we think we can use this as a starting point. That's why in 6th February, it's one day before the big ceremony for the centenary centenary ceremony of Nahdlatul Ulama. So we are going to do the official ceremony to commemorate the century of the establishment of Nahdlatul Ulama in the 7th of February. It matches the 16th of Rajab of 1444. Because Nahdlatul Ulama was established in 16 Rajab of 1344. And it's going to be in the 7th of February, next month. It's going to be in Sidoarjo. One day before that, on the 6th of February, we will conduct another conference, the National Conference of Ulamas in Surabaya. And the topic is going to be about the legal status of United Nations Charter in the eye of Sharia. If it is considered to be justified and legitimate agreement, then it should bind Muslims everywhere. There we can develop, a more comprehensive, constructive discourse in Sharia related to the relationship between different religions. So, and we are doing this as the continuation of the R20 forum also. So this is the, a part of this, what we call the global movement of the R20. And we have also already plans in other places, such as in May, inshallah, we'll do a conference in Erbil, Iraq, on the topics of defending the rights of religious minorities everywhere in the world. We also have a plan already in December in Princeton University of another forum related to human rights and so forth. So this is going to be a global movement. We are already in a ongoing discussion with our Indians counterparts in developing the discourse, the agenda for our next R20 forum in India, inshallah, under the leadership of India in G20 forum. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most part of the idea that we are developing related to this the issue of relationship between different religions. And as a basic idea in this is that we should not stop only with this discourse of Islam wasatiyah or moderate Islam, because it is not enough. We have to go forward with honestly addressing the problematic elements and the teachings of Islam itself, and also the teachings of each other religions. Thank you. Allahul Mafiq Lak Batarik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.